When my husband and I arrived at my in-laws' house, my mother-in-law greeted us with a smile, but her warmth was reserved only for my husband. As I attempted to enter, she shot me a cold glare and said, "You're not needed here." Before slamming the door shut, I was taken aback and gently opened the door again, only to be met with a furious stare. "I heard about it. Your parents are in debt, aren't they? We don't need a wife like that," she said, before slamming the door once more. Stunned and holding my bags, I could hear my husband and mother-in-law laughing and enjoying themselves inside. Realizing I didn't have to tolerate this treatment, I decided to leave. My name is Nancy, and I'm a 32-year-old doctor working at the hospital founded by my parents. I met my husband, John, when he was admitted to our hospital following an injury. He was charming, friendly, and a great conversationalist. Although he's 5 years younger than me, he appeared mature and reliable. We married after a year of dating, and he is now a vice president at his father's company, where my mother-in-law also worked. His parents were overjoyed with our marriage. "Your parents run a prestigious hospital, and now a doctor is becoming our son's wife. It's like a dream. We're so happy to have you, Nancy," my mother-in-law used to say. During Christmas and other holidays, we would visit my in-laws' house. They always welcomed us warmly, and I would bring delicious food and drinks as gifts for their New Year's celebrations. Despite my offers to help with the cooking, my mother-in-law would always decline, saying, "Nancy, you work hard as a doctor. Just relax. Your family doesn't need you to do anything." My husband would agree, and I looked forward to these visits. But today was different. My mother-in-law's gaze was icy and hostile, a stark contrast to the warmth I had always known from her. Back at my parents' house, I had never encountered such hostility. I have a younger brother who is also a doctor, and we both work at our family's hospital. Recently, my father had called me to discuss his health, but there was no mention of any financial troubles. As I drove home, I recalled a conversation I had with my husband a week ago. Despite our busy schedules, we had come home at the same time. "My dad's retiring from being a doctor," he said. "His eyesight isn't what it used to be, especially for surgery, so they've decided to close the hospital." I told him. My husband looked shocked and responded, "What? The hospital's closing? Do they have debts or something?" I'm not sure about debts, but they're planning to sell the hospital property, so I won't be working there anymore. I'll be taking a break for a while, I explained. But just as I was about to elaborate, I received an emergency call from the hospital and had to leave immediately. "We'll continue this conversation later," I said, but there was barely any time for that. My husband, claiming he was busy at work, came home late, and with my night shifts, we barely spoke. I suspected he might have exaggerated our conversation, assuming my parents' hospital closure was due to debts and that I was somehow involved in handling them. He probably shared this with his parents, but the cold treatment from my mother-in-law was still shocking. Lost in these thoughts, I was driving home when I heard a phone ringing from my bag, locked out by my mother-in-law. I had driven off with my husband's belongings still in the car, including his phone, which was ringing non-stop. I had never looked at his phone before, but thinking it might be important, I decided to check. I pulled over, took out his phone, and tried a few passwords. Knowing my husband's aversion to complexity, I figured it wouldn't be too difficult. As expected, his birthday unlocked the phone. The caller was a woman named Susan, a name I didn't recognize. Looking through the call history, I found numerous exchanges with Susan. The messages were disturbing. "I want to see you soon. I wish I could be with you forever. I'll be with my wife during the New Year holidays, but I'll miss you. Once I get the money, I plan to leave her. That makes me happy. I love you the most." It became clear that my husband was cheating on me. I had always considered my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law to be kind-hearted people. Alone at home, I couldn't shake the shock of what I had discovered. I went into his study to look for more evidence. Opening a drawer, I found photos of him with an unfamiliar woman, apparently from a trip, along with hotel receipts and other incriminating items. Unable to process everything, I decided to visit my parents' house. When I rang the doorbell, my mother opened it, looking surprised. "Why are you here so late? You look pale. Are you okay?" Seeing her concerned face, I broke down in tears. She noticed my distress and wrapped me in a blanket. My father, sensing something was wrong, asked, "What happened?" I told them about the unfair treatment from my in-laws. My mother was shocked, and my father was furious. "It's terrible," he said. It turned out that my husband's family business had been struggling, and they had frequently sought financial help from my father, which he provided. Thinking it was for me, Maybe you should play along for a while and see their true colors, my father suggested. It seemed like a plan worth considering. The next day, I returned to my in-laws' house and shouted at the entrance. I'm sorry for being an immature wife. Please let me in. I brought gourmet ingredients and fine wine as gifts. Reluctantly, I was allowed inside. My mother-in-law, eyeing the luxurious gifts with visible greed, welcomed me with a smile. Meanwhile, my father-in-law and husband looked at me with cold, disapproving stares. We only treated you well because we thought you came from a prestigious family, my mother-in-law said. Now that we know your family's hospital is struggling with debt, you're just a hard-working wife. Understood, I replied. From that moment, the harassment intensified. Get to cooking, she ordered, shoving me toward the kitchen. Using the ingredients I had brought, I prepared a variety of dishes and served them. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and husband dug in eagerly. Hey, we're out of wine. Bring the next bottle, they complained. Is this all you cooked? You might be a smart doctor, but you're a terrible housewife. Despite their complaints, they finished every dish. When I tried to eat, my mother-in-law slapped my hand, causing my fork to clatter to the floor. What do you think you're doing? You're not eating with us. Housekeepers eat leftovers in the kitchen. So, I'm a housekeeper now? I asked, bewildered. How dare you talk back, especially with all your family's debt, she retorted. John, do you feel the same way? I never liked your arrogant attitude. Nancy, my husband said, his voice dripping with disdain. I put up with it because I thought your family was wealthy. Listen to me, Mom, I'll keep her around as a housekeeper. Hearing my husband's true feelings was a shock. I had hoped he was merely going along with his parents, but it became clear that he had married me for my family's perceived wealth and had been pretending all along. His current behavior was his true nature. I found myself relegated to eating leftovers in the cold kitchen, surrounded by a mountain of dirty dishes. Save water and wash with cold, they demanded. Washing dishes in icy water during the freezing winter was excruciating. The cold made my whole body tremble. For sleep, my mother-in-law pointed me toward a shed with no heating or bed. Where is the bed? I asked, shivering. Why would you expect a bed? There are old towels and cardboard in the shed. Make do, she replied. This confirmed their true nature. Thankfully, I had recorded their abusive comments. I had no more reason to stay in that house. That night, in the freezing shed, my anger toward my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and husband kept me warm. I vowed never to forgive them. Late that night, after they had drunkenly passed out, I drove back to my parents' house. After a restful sleep, I began packing the next morning when suddenly, the door burst open. My mother-in-law and husband stormed in. You think you can just leave without making breakfast? What's the meaning of abandoning your husband? They demanded, their contemptuous looks frightening. It seemed my father-in-law was at work, but my husband and mother-in-law had come to berate me further. I am done with both of you, I said firmly. You dare talk back to your mother-in-law and husband? You're even worse than I thought. We can divorce if you want, but if you initiate it, you'll have to pay compensation. Maybe you can sell the hospital's land. It should fetch a good price. We'll take that, my husband sneered. That's a good idea, I said sarcastically. My husband smirked, believing he had the upper hand, and then threw a paper at me. It was a pre-filled divorce application. If you don't do as I say, I'll use this, he threatened. Good. This clears things up for me. You thought I'd beg you to stay? You think a bankrupt hospital means I have no choice but to cling to you, right? I said. He was completely mistaken. Actually, it's true my father retired and closed the current hospital, but we're relocating to a new facility near the train station. My brother and I will work there, with me as the director. Far from being in debt, we have more than enough assets. Upon hearing this, my husband and mother-in-law turned pale. That's a lie, right? You deceived me, my husband stammered. I tried to explain, but they were too quick to jump to conclusions. So your family is still wealthy then? My mother-in-law asked, panic evident in her voice. Can we forget everything that happened yesterday and today? We've always had good relations, right? Her plea was absurd after all the insults and mistreatment. I'm shocked that you could spew such terrible abuse and now expect me to forget it. Remember, I'm just the housekeeper, right? I replied, my voice dripping with disdain. No, that was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry, please, let it go, my mother-in-law begged, her desperation palpable. It's too late, I know your true feelings. By the way, my father will be reclaiming the $100,000 he loaned to your company, I added. watching as panic spread across their faces. What? How did you know about that? We don't have that money, my husband stammered, realizing the gravity of his mistake. Nancy, I'm sorry, I should have defended you from Mom. I promise to protect you from now on, he said, attempting to salvage the situation. You mean protect Susan, right? I asked, raising an eyebrow. How did you know about Susan? He asked, his eyes widening. You were cheating while pretending to work late. I have all the evidence, I said, showing him the photos and email exchanges on my phone. His face went pale as he looked at the evidence, sweat pouring down his face. You'll be the one paying compensation. Susan was just a fling I met at a bar. I'll break up with her. Please forgive me, he pleaded, his voice wavering as he drooled onto the floor, looking pitiful. That's not all. I showed him a photo of a life insurance policy taken out on me and a detailed pamphlet about car maintenance with a section marked for tampering with car brakes. You not only wanted my family's money but also my life. I've consulted the police, so you can't harm me anymore. My company's in trouble. I need the money. Please help me, he begged, desperation in his voice. Don't joke. We'll communicate through lawyers from now on. I never want to see your face again. As he lunged at me, my father and brother emerged from the back room, grabbing his arm and restraining him. My husband, pinned to the ground, cried while my mother-in-law stood there, stunned. The house was purchased under my name, and I planned to sell it. My brother, dealing with the reluctant occupants, ensured that my husband and mother-in-law were sent away. After the divorce, I received compensation from both my husband and the woman he had cheated with. Despite his constant begging to reconcile, I threatened to involve the police if he didn't stop, which finally made him cease his harassment. Through a lawyer, I successfully reclaimed the $100,000 my father had lent to my father-in-law's company. The business, already struggling, eventually went bankrupt under a mountain of debt. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and husband now live in a small, outdated apartment, juggling multiple part-time jobs but still struggling to manage their debts. Meanwhile, I've moved on to a more fulfilling chapter of my life. I work as the director of a newly built hospital, alongside my brother, where we are dedicated to treating those in need. Each day is rewarding as we make a difference in people's lives. I've bought a comfortable apartment near the hospital, and I'm thoroughly enjoying my new independence and the satisfaction of living life on my own terms.